sponsored by CDC and HUD, and it was a good example, I think, of cross-agency collaboration. At the time, I think HUD was quite interested in expanding their evidence base around HOPWA programs and other housing programs, and CDC was very interested in expanding their repertoire of HIV-related structural interventions, and so they both had a common interest in looking at housing as HIV prevention, and so came together to sponsor this study, and included a large number of other partners who wound up working on this, from RTI, Columbia University, Johns Hopkins. Previously it was Emory, University of Pittsburgh, where Ron Stahl is at now, and a number of other partners. And I should say that this study was done in Baltimore, Chicago, and L.A. As Patrick said earlier, Maryland, of course, is one of the northernmost of the states included in the Southern Aid. Primary research questions were to look at whether HOPWA housing really affected HIV-related health status for persons living with HIV, looking at things like CD4 cell counts, viral load, and so on. Whether or not HIV risk behaviors were changed, whether there was a difference in access to medical care, and whether adherence to medical care might change as a function of the study, or as a function of housing, I should say. So in the study, there were 630 people that ultimately participated across the three sites of Baltimore, Chicago, and L.A., and there was randomization into one of two groups, either the customary care group, where the person might be, for instance, on a waiting list or in any other way that was customary locally, to attempt to get rental assistance programs. So this was just the usual and customary care that was available in the community. And then the other was a housing group where rental assistance was provided immediately, so there would be no waiting in the usual kinds of systems, but rather you could get vouchers immediately. And I think an important bioethics point of view to make here is that we were very concerned that no one summarized the baseline data that we had from this study. We found that medication adherence was that 1/3 of the clients were not on any HIV meds, but once somebody was on HIV medications, that it was possible to achieve high levels of adherence. We've already talked a little bit about the viral load levels, but also we found that disclosure to family members was associated with undetectable viral load, or disclosure of serostatus to family members. With regard to HIV-related stigma, we found that a number of clients did report experiencing AIDS-related stigma, and that was commonly associated with depression and poor self-assessed physical and mental health. We've also touched already on drug and alcohol use, but we haven't yet touched on violence and abuse. And in the clients who participated in the study, there were actually pretty high levels of histories of experiencing violence and abuse in one's lifetime. So that, I think, describes in some detail who participated in the study and what were the relationships between some of the variables that we looked at baseline. So let me talk a little bit now about the outcomes of the intervention study. When we looked at the two arms that were randomized in this study, of course, if this were a drug trial and not a housing trial, in the placebo arm, if you will, you would have 0% of people getting the drug that was being tested, and you would have 100% of people, or very near that, getting the drug that was being tested. Of course, with housing, it's a much more complicated thing, as everybody on this call, in this conference knows today. It's not as easy to do that. And so what we found was that if you were in the customary care condition at 6 months, 16% of clients had found housing. At 12 months, it was 37%, and at 18 months, actually just over half in the customary care condition had found housing through the usual systems. If you got a housing voucher immediately on the first day of the study, at 6 months, still only 54% of the clients had gotten into housing. At 12 months, it was 87%. At 18 months, it was 82%. And I think, of course, this underscores the point that many people in the conference know today, is that just because you get a voucher today doesn't mean it's immediately easy to be in a house situation tomorrow. One has to find the right place to live, a cooperative landlord, a place that works with regard to how far it is from your employment or from child care. A whole variety of factors go into that.